Well, the heading of the show this morning is, well, I wouldn't pay them in washers. I don't know whether that's a northern expression, but it's directed at the people who think they run this country. So good morning, it's Caroline Stevens seeking the truth. I've been doing lots of research. I've hardly slept. There are so many agenda being thrown at us at the moment. It's if it wasn't for the financial implications, the health implications, it would be mildly amusing. So there is nothing certain in life apart from death and taxes, so the saying goes. So with that in mind, I'm going to start with The Guardian of the 1st of August, where, according to the two authors of a particular article, which will be on my blog, wrote, "A week is a long time in a coronavirus pandemic, a fact the government has learned all too painfully. Avoiding a 1-week delay to lockdown in March would potentially have halved the death toll it had previously emerged, which goes some way to explain why there have been not one but two screeching U-turns over the past week. Firstly, the one on UK travellers to Spain. Which is Britain's favourite summer holiday destination, to which 1.8 million people plan to fly to this month. And secondly, on lockdown measures for 4.6 million people in northern England. Both were announced late into the evening and imposed within hours. So potentially, that's 6.5 million people in total being impacted. That's almost 10% of the population. Of course, there will be potentially double counting here, because some northern town people will be heading for Spain. But there again, double counting is something the government is expert on, as we've found out. Now, the ensuing chaos and anger has been palpable, and it points to one thing: that the government is very, very worried about a resurgence of the virus on UK soil. But this, remember, is according to The Guardian. So we'll look at that in a minute. There is also mention of grant shaps. The drawbridge to Spain was pulled up, with the change announced at 7:30 in the evening, literally hours before it took effect. Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, had enough insider knowledge not to have started his planned holiday to the country, but he feared a backlash if he avoided the pain experienced by other UK tourists. So he flew out to Spain, only to return, purple suitcase in hand, a couple of days later. You see, they're all actors. They're playing their parts beautifully. And that's the reason why they pass acts in Parliament. The truth is staring at us. The elites are trying to keep disconnecting me. The truth is staring at us in the face. Now, further into this Guardian article, these two authors write, "Evidence from Public Health England and the Joint Biosecurity Centre showed a worrying rise in infections in northwest England. This time, a locally imposed guidance would not be enough. The force of the law was needed." Okay, so now I'm going to revisit part of this article. Let's reread what Dennis and Kate have written. It did take two of them. We the people know that we are living through a plandemic. The evidence of the plan includes the Rockefeller report, the vested interests in Big Pharma by the MPs, laboratory funding around the world, a release of some sort of virus, the planning of temporary mortuaries up and down the UK, literally years back, and Event 201. In fact, there's too many events to mention here, and they were all on my previous videos. But the authors of this Guardian article states that a week's delay to the lockdown doubled the death toll. Now, as you know, I was a maths teacher and I was a statistician. There is absolutely no way on earth that anybody can make such a statement. You cannot prove one way or the other about this. And the journos are simply spicing their story up. And so are the medical people, you know. But call them medical people. Some of them have failed their degrees in physics. Now, they also say that the government is very, very worried about a resurgence of a virus on UK soil. How do they know that? That's another sweeping statement from The Guardian. Suffice to remind people that the doctor attending Boris was quoted as saying, if Boris had COVID-19, then he was no longer a doctor. If the government were worried, why did they break lockdown rules, which they established? And why aren't they all wearing masks? So as I've said before, we don't actually know who or what is running Public Health England. We can have a good guess though. And I've got my money on the office cleaner. Okay, so the article does end by saying Johnson had sought to give the impression of a government taking decisive action after carefully weighing up new evidence. But soon after his press conference ended, another official, reflecting on the events of the week, said simply, "It's a shit show." Ha ha. Never a truer word spoken. But how come people can't see through all of this? It's such a badly scripted panto. And the actors, my goodness me. So we're moving ever so slowly towards a tipping point. Already we have possibly got up to 10% of the population being adversely affected by the past week's decisions alone. Not to mention the people's jobs, for example, in the travel industry, by a government gone rogue. So where does all this appear to be taking us? So let's talk about benefits and taxation. Firstly, the UK state pension, according to the Express this weekend, is now on its next trajectory to rise to 66 after finally equalising between men and women in 2019. The state pension age will keep rising. The age equalised, reaching 65 for men and women last November. We should expect to see, the state pension age increase again in 2027, if not before. And then it's projected to increase once again towards the end of the 2030s. The government, you see, has failed over the years to plan. Remember the expression, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You see, the government, for years and years and years and years, so it doesn't matter what colour that government is, they invited people from all over the world to come and live here, regardless of whether they had a job to come to. You see, I used to share a platform alongside actuaries in 2012, 2013. Now, these are some of the most, well, amazing people on the maths front. They're very, very clever. And we all spoke in the City of London. And we also spoke at Staple Inn, which is like their home. Now, I discussed pension funding with the government actuaries off the record at that time. And they told me in confidence that the government told them to button it and their jobs were on the line if they opened their mouths. So you see, our government, not this one, not last one, but all the governments have betrayed the people of the UK for years and years and years. Secondly, on the 9th of March this year, the Express stated over 40s may pay extra tax to fund their care in old age. Middle-aged workers could be forced to pay a social care tax to cover illness in old age. Under plans being looked at by the Prime Minister, you know, he's your friend, all employees aged 40 and over would pay a fixed levy of around 2.5% of their wages. The reform of the social care system, which currently sees pensioners forced to sell their homes to pay bills of around £750 a week, would be based on the German system. Health Secretary Dr. Death said, "We need action now, finally, to seek a solution that can support future generations. This would involve the over 40s paying into a pot which would be handed out in cash payments to the elderly and disabled receiving care." What have all our governments, present and past, done with all those contributions we paid in over the years? Number 3. According to the Express, the 21st of February this year, just before lockdown, 2020 council tax to rise by £70 in nearly all areas to fund social care crisis. Another tax for social care. Millions of families are about to see their council tax bills rise by double the rate of inflation, with 90% of local authorities providing social care pushing for the highest possible increases. 16 out of the 133 English councils that provide social care are raising the charge by the maximum 3.99%, which will leave the average county council resident paying this extra £69.70. Now, I haven't even begun to mention the other taxations that the government has for us. It's in the pipeline. I'll cover those in a future video. Suffice to say at this point that the Sun newspaper on the 8th of June stated that dentists up and down the country were set to reopen on that day for the first time since the pandemic closed surgeries, but only a third of people would be seen face to face. What good is a dentist if you can't see a dentist face to face? How can you have a virtual dental checkup? So presumably this means that 2 in 3 people, like myself, can only be seen now on an emergency basis. So really, we no longer, is a penny dropping now? Because we no longer now have an NHS dental industry. It'll be a privatised dental industry. Now, whilst reading the article, there was a very, very short video incorporated in it. And there was a man, and he removed his wife's tooth with a pair of pliers. So, in my previous video, I talked about how the United Nations agenda is to take a first world country like England, like the UK, and turn it into a third world nation. A first world country into a third world nation without having a dental practice, to have regular checkups, to prevent problems before they occur. How can you have a virtual dental appointment? Can we not see what our government is doing? They're removing our NHS right from under our noses. And finally, the Express of the 7th of February, so again before lockdown, just to put it into context, the UK care shame. Thousands of pleas from pensioners are ignored every day, and some 2,000 pleas for care from desperate pensioners rejected. And this came in an alarming report. Do you remember that report? It was only in February, just before lockdown. This means that more than half of all requests from pensioners are turned down by the councils. This was before the lockdown. So let's not conflate coronavirus with what's been happening in this country. Around 700,000 requests for formal care and support made by older people in the past 12 months were not dealt with, according to analysis in the Age UK report. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our government is not your friend. Legal challenges are a waste of your time and your money. The government and the Crown Corporation run the legal system. We need to get this firmly ingrained here now, because I don't know what else I can say to stop people throwing good money after bad. We have all these taxes and more coming down the line. We are going to be losing jobs hand over fist. We now need to be really savvy about what we're going to do. It's been Caroline Stevens seeking the truth. Please do share this video. I'm trying to pull everything together and produce a full picture of the mission that lies ahead for us and how our government is treating the people of the UK, and in particular the people of England. It's about time we pulled together. Thanks for watching. I'll be back shortly. Goodbye for now. Please do share this video.